Over the weekend, if you were following me on social media, specifically on Instagram, where I was posting video and pictures of this, and it's still available there for you to watch and part of my Instagram stories at Damon Amendo. The Baltimore Orioles inducted our friend little Mo Gaba into their Hall of Fame. And I just thought this was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. And little Mo began when he was about 8 years old or so. By calling our show, we were on in Baltimore. An affiliate in Baltimore was carrying us at nights and overnights. And he would listen and he would call. And we didn't know anything about little Mo besides he was a hardcore Baltimore Orioles fan and a hardcore Baltimore Ravens fan and loved his teams. And this young man would call and he'd laugh, he'd giggle, he'd make fun of Mraz, he'd have some joke about the show. He got it. He understood the show. But there were points when I'm like, we got kids calling the show in the middle of the night. Does he have any parental supervision? Like, why is he up this late with us listening to sports talk and calling? And didn't really know anything about Mo. At times, I would jump on the phone during commercial breaks if he was on hold just to ask him, hey, man, everything good? You good? Everything going? And he couldn't have been a brighter light, laughing and giggling and all joy. I figured, okay, everything must be okay. And it was around this time, maybe about a year later, when one of my former producers, James Ward, sent me a link. He says, is this our little Mo? And it was a Mo Gaba throwing out a first pitch at an Orioles game at Camden Yards. And I'm like, is it? Mo, Baltimore Orioles, young kid? Could it be? And I looked at the link and he was throwing out a first pitch because he had kind of inspired everybody around him, having dealt with cancer his entire life. He was a young man at this point in time, maybe 10 years old or so, and he had dealt with cancer basically since he was born. He was blind, but he had become a civic treasure because he was calling Baltimore sports talk like every day to talk about the Orioles and the Ravens, specifically the Orioles. The Orioles were like, let's have him throw out a first pitch. And I'm like, holy bleep, that's our little Mo. And then it all started to come together. Oh, okay, this is his story. And because he's blind, radio, specifically sports radio, is his haven, his safe haven. He couldn't watch on TV, but radio, and think about this show, how kind of wacky and colorful, and the mothership montage and the sounds and the idea that we're hurtling through space to talk about sports was very captivating to a young man like that, especially one where it was theater of the mind. If you can't see anything, you're looking at things through your mind's eye. So I was just kind of taken aback, like, wow, I didn't know he was this type of young man, but it all kind of came together. And I just began following the little Mo story. Now, probably many of you got some wind of this as well, because Mo went from throwing out the first pitch at an Orioles game to, reading off a Ravens draft pick in Braille on national TV. NFL Network queued him up and he read the draft pick of the Ravens in Braille. The first young man, the first blind person ever to do that, read a draft pick in Braille for the NFL draft. He then was a guest of Ravens training camp. They invited him into the huddle, and Lamar Jackson threw a touchdown pass on the play that he called from the huddle. And all of these simply amazing things because Mo, despite having no sight and a body consistently ravaged by cancer that he would beat via chemo, but it kept coming back in different forms year after year after year after year, confined to a wheelchair, Never, ever, ever had a bad day. And just inspired joy around him. So you've got a young man who has every reason in the world to be depressed, to feel like a victim, every reason in the world to be a little down, low energy. And yet, whether it's at Johns Hopkins, where he's being treated, other hospitals, in the class, at home, calling a sports radio station, everything is about positivity. Everything. Well, late last summer, I got word from some of the connections I have down in Baltimore that his health was not doing so well. He had graduated 8th grade. They threw not one, but 2 parades for little Mo last summer. 2! As he graduated in June from 8th grade to move on to high school. 2! This young man had 2 parades come by his apartment with members of the Ravens, members of the Orioles, members of local law enforcement, members, local politicians. I mean, people, teachers, people came out to salute Mo graduating. Whoa. I mean, the man became a Baltimore civic icon. When I had learned that he was not doing so well health-wise, I'd always wanted to meet Mo, and this was as good a reason as any. I got to get down. So I went down to Baltimore last summer, spent a day with Mo, and we just did everything. We played video games, and we threw the football around, and specifically, I bought him a Nerf football that whistled so they could hear it. So I would throw it up in the air and catch it, or he would throw it to me, or I would throw it to somebody else, and he could hear it go back and forth. He loved it. And I got him a big old water gun. He loved that, a big super soaker. And he was shooting me and shooting his cousins and giggling the entire time. And that day will always be with me as probably the most impactful day of my life. And so when he passed away late last July, it was late July, there was this kind of outpouring of emotion in the city of Baltimore because of what he had meant to so many people and for those 2 franchises, the Ravens and the Orioles. And during the winter, over the winter, they had marked Mo Gaba Way. There is a street named after Mo just down the street from M&T Bank Stadium where the Ravens play. And the Ravens during the season, in their end zones, the MO in Baltimore highlighted in gold in their end zones all season long for Mo. And a group of people that I became friends with that run the apparel company down there, Thread Level Midnight, which is an awesome name, great office reference, did the Mo's Rows, where cardboard cutouts of fans last year because of pandemic, people donated and purchased cutouts of Mo, and they were all throughout the section around the end zone at Ravens games. So Mo was there for the Ravens games. So around this time that the Baltimore Ravens announced that he is going to be inducted into their Hall of Fame. Now, their Hall of Fame is ball players. Their Hall of Fame is managers. Their Hall of Fame broadcasters. So we're talking about the Jim Palmers and Eddie Murrays and Cal Ripkins and Brooks Robinsons and Frank Robinsons. I mean, these are the icons of icons in the Baltimore Orioles Hall of Fame. And Mo Gaba was going in. So Saturday was the Hall of Fame induction. And I just sat there. First of all, I said, I got to go down to be part of this. And it was such a cool event where there is a series of bars outside of the stadium. One's called Pickles Pub. Thread Level Midnight had a tent there, and they were giving out wristbands for the Mo's Rose crew. We all got T-shirts as well. A part of the proceeds went to Johns Hopkins University for pediatric cancer research. And we were all kind of one team of Little Mo super fans. And everybody that was there just wanted to talk about Little Mo and swap Mo stories. And it made everybody just feel so good and so positive to talk about Mo and to talk about what he meant to everybody. And, oh, when did you know him? And when did you know him? And what was your experience like this? And all of these things that people are asking me about him calling into the show. And it was just incredibly uplifting to be around people that cared about Mo so much the same way that I do. So we end up going inside and we have these signs. And if you're watching at watchda.com, you can see the sign behind me that we were all holding up during the ceremony. And it says Mo Gaba, Orioles Hall of Famer. And he's throwing out that first pitch from his wheelchair. And it's just like, wow, this guy's in a Major League Baseball team's Hall of Fame forever. And we all sat in the center field bleachers, so right behind where you would watch, home plate, and directly behind center field. That's where we are. Number of people, probably 75 people or so, 100 people or so, all decked out in the orange, Mo Gaba t-shirt, and holding up our signs. And perhaps Mo's closest friend became Jeremy Kahn, who was a sports talk host on 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore. And Jeremy and I have become friends through Mo, and he became really, really close with Mo and Mo's mom, Sanzi, and the family. And he was selected to induct Mo into the Hall of Fame. So we're sitting, this is before the game. Game starts at about 7 o'clock. This is about 6:30. We're all in the stands. And this was part of Jeremy's induction speech for Mo.
One of the things that I love the most about him is he never thought about himself. He always thought about everyone else. He cared about each and every one of you guys, and it showed. You look at all the things we've done, whether he was alive or posthumously, he's done so much. The kid's won 3 sports Emmys. He has a street named after him not that far from here, Mo Gaba Way. He's got a talking bobblehead. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. And today, he's an Oriole Hall of Famer. So I want to tell you guys, I'm proud to formally induct into the Orioles Hall of Fame a young man whose contributions to the Orioles will never be forgotten. So one last thing, Mo loved when we would talk about Hawk Harrelson. And he always said, he had a couple sayings that a lot of you guys will know. But Mo Gaba into the Hall of Fame, you can put it on the board. Yes, yes, heck yes, as Mo would say. Thank you, guys.
So awesome. Jeremy did such a great job. And when he said, now he's an Orioles Hall of Famer, I got chills. I'm like, my goodness, Mo is a Baltimore Orioles Hall of Famer. This is like, again, Cal Ripken and Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson and Jim Palmer and Mo, little Mo. So we were cheering in center field, holding up these signs that you see me holding right now. Congrats, Mo. And then Mo Gaba, Orioles Hall of Famer. And the night was extraordinary. It was extraordinary because every person I met that was there to support Mo was the type of person that I would trust my life with. And this, I'm saying this very honestly. Every single person I met that was there to support Mo was the type of person I would trust my life with. Everybody was so heartfelt. Everybody was so authentic. Everybody was so happy and joyous and supportive. And I'm like, these are my people. These are my people. And the city of Baltimore, I just kept hearing from people. I kept saying, boy, we're so lucky. Baltimore's so lucky to have had him. Like, he's ours. And that bond that Mo has with the city of Baltimore is so remarkably special to me that the city embraced him as like their guy. That's their hero. That's their civic icon. That's their little Mo. And I'm so thankful that he was in a city like that. He only lived 13 years, but in 13 years on Earth, he clearly accomplished more than almost everybody else does in their entire life. And it was so special of a day. It was so remarkable of a night. I'm so thankful the Orioles did what they did. So thankful for the guys at Thread Level Midnight for doing what they did. And the men and women that support, there's an inner sanctum of Mo fanatics, if you will, this kind of inner sanctum of strength within the family and family friends. And there's like 5 or 6 of these people that are just the greatest people you'll ever meet, and just care so much about taking care of every little detail about Mo's legacy that the love spreads from there. And I'm grateful that there's that team of people in Baltimore to do these types of things. And I'm grateful for every one of our listeners that reached out to me, whether you could be there or couldn't be there, and said, hey, we're there with you in spirit and we're toasting to Mo on our couch or on our porch or what have you. And for everybody that's ever reached out and just said, that Mo means something, it means that you opened yourself up enough to feel something that's not always easy to feel. And it's a certain little piece of magic that Mo had because of his enthusiasm and his joy and the lessons that he taught. And to me, the most important lessons were that you get to choose every single day whether the day is great. And every day is. His saying was, make every day a win. And it's so simple, but it's powerful. It's really empowering to think about when you consider a day could suck. And then realize it never has to. You get to choose whether it sucks or not. You're like, boy, it kind of flips everything on its ear. But that also, if you are love and you are happiness, that spreads around you. People can't help but be it around you. And that coming together through sport for unity is beautiful. Mo taught me lessons that I could have never learned otherwise, which is why I'm always going to be indebted to him. And I was so grateful to be able to be there this weekend. And I will tell you that it's something that I've wanted to do for a while and I plan to do, is that what we all had on Saturday is something that we will on this DA show provide moving forward. I want to, and I pledge to, create an event every year where we get to come together to remember the lessons of Little Mo and come together and have a reason to be joyous, have a reason to be celebratory, have a reason to be happy. There's not enough excuses like that in the world today where it's built around being happy. And I want to create that through Mo's spirit. So what this was is basically a jumping off point. I'd love to do an event every year where we get to go to an Orioles game at Camden Yards, sit together, wear Mo t-shirts, have a few beers, eat some food, laugh, tell stories, and watch a ball game together. But what they've already done in Baltimore to create his legacy, the street named after him, Mo Gaba Way, the induction ceremonies, the t-shirts, the fundraising, the events, the Hall of Fames, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary what he meant to everybody and how they have carried out his legacy. And his mom, Sanzi, is a superhero, as you might imagine. Single mom that dealt with Mo's incredibly difficult health situations for 13 years, then lost her son last summer, and they were best buds. Her strength is incredible. And everybody considers her a superhero, and rightfully so. She walks on water for everybody down there, and she should. But it was touching and wonderful, and I'm grateful to be part of it. And I thank every one of you that has reached out to me, whether it's something that I talked about with Little Mo, tweeted at me, watched the Nomad videos, watched one of my replays of my thoughts on Mo, emailed me, followed me on Instagram and shot me a message. All of that really, it means something because it's all through that Mo called this radio station to laugh. That's my kind of guy. Find more excuses to laugh. And because the peeps down there are so great, These are the official Mo's cutouts from M&T Bank Stadium from last year. And they gave me a bunch to give out to all the guys here on the show. They wanted to say thank you to all the guys here on the show that love Mo like I do, that couldn't be there. So I got a handful of Mo's Rose that are going to go to all the guys here on the staff. And again, really thankful that they wanted to give me these and share them with everybody. But those are the type of people that they are. And I just love them to death. And Mo's my hero, always will be. And it was just an amazing weekend. And if you want to check out the sights and the sounds, all of the videos and pictures that I posted, the people that I was with, how it looked, it's all on my Instagram at Damon Amendo. Just click on the Instagram story that says Mo's Rose and Mo's Hall of Fame, HOF. And it'll be pretty cool to see, I'm sure, even from afar. What a weekend. Mo is in the Orioles Hall of Fame. How incredible. There's Frank Robinson. There's Cal Ripken Jr. There's little Mo. There's Earl Weaver. There's Mo Gaba. Oh, golly. And Camden Yards is just beautiful. You know, built in 1992, the start of the retro ballpark era. Everything after that copied it, followed it. Oh, wow, we can put it downtown. And oh, wow, we can put brick all around and iron gates and make it feel old school and make it feel homey and open concourses. And you can stand out in the outfield with a beer and watch over a railing. That was all Camden Yards. And going there, I just wish I had 2 games there, because the one game I was totally, just invested in Mo and talking to everybody and meeting everybody. And that was enough. But now I just want to go to watch a baseball game. I mean, what an incredible, incredible ballpark. And it holds up, man. Oh, that warehouse is beautiful, and Utah Street is beautiful, and food and the drinks are great. And the whole concourse and the souvenir and the apparel and the upper deck and the concourse you can just watch over the outfield from. It's all just, it's simple. It doesn't have the bells and whistles of some of the newer ballparks that tried to do what Camden Yards did, but it's kind of better that way because it's so good, because it's so basic and beautiful that you're just baseball heaven. Here it is. It's kind of the perfect place to do a Mo gathering annually, wouldn't you say? It's a destination ballpark.